arriving first is very clear. They care more than you know, and you are meant to see this now. This does not feel like passing attention. This feels like feeling that stayed alive behind restraint and behind silence. If this found you, I do feel it is a sign. Not a random sign, but a timing sign, a truth sign, a heart sign. Please just take what resonates for you. Since this is a general love reading, you never have to force anything that does not fit your story, all right? And if the energy lands better reversed, that is okay as well. Just place yourself where the feeling feels most natural in your situation. Let us begin with your side first and see where you are now in this bond. Let us look at what your heart has been carrying around this person. Here is Judgment, and the Nine of Wands, and then the Three of Swords. Wow, this is very strong right away. With Judgment, I feel your spirit has already been alerted. Some part of you has known for a while that this was not a light connection, even if your mind tried to make it smaller. Even if the outer story stayed too quiet to fully trust. With the Nine of Wands, I feel you are protective now. You are careful with your tenderness, and you do not hand trust away quickly. And with the Three of Swords, I feel older pain is still alive in your system. For some of you, this bond touched that wound directly, and for others, it woke an older one. So your side feels split in a very understandable way. One part of you senses the depth, and another part says, show me something real. You may feel the pull without wanting to assume. You may feel the bond without wanting to build your world on intuition alone. Now let us look at them, because this title begins in their hidden heart. We have the Hierophant and the Two of Wands. And the Page of Wands with the Hierophant, I feel they know this carries meaning this is not some disposable attraction to them. No matter how they acted before, there is seriousness under their silence. There is reverence under what they have not yet fully named. With the Two of Wands, I feel they have been standing at a threshold, thinking ahead, replaying possibilities, and wondering what happens if they move. They may look still from the outside, but inwardly, I feel a great deal of planning and emotional measuring. And then with the Page of Wands, I feel a spark that refuses to die. Something in them still wants opening, still wants approach, still wants fresh movement. So let us look at the shared current, because this is where the depth shows itself. Here is the High Priestess and the Five of Wands and the King of Pentacles. With the High Priestess, I feel there has been too much sensed and not enough said. This bond has lived in silence, but silence did not make it empty. With the Five of Wands, I feel inner conflict on both sides. Fear, resistance, longing, and too much emotional weather moving under the calm. And with the King of Pentacles, I feel the deeper truth beneath all of it. What this connection wants is not chaos. It wants shape, steadiness, and real ground. Let us pull a little more here. And wow, here is trust. So Spirit is saying trust what your deeper self has already been noticing. This is not in your head, and it is not something you invented to comfort yourself. For them, here is friendship, and I love that because it tells me they do not only care about romance or fantasy, they care about your presence itself. Your way, your voice, your humor, your atmosphere, your emotional imprint. For both of you, here is it is safe for you to love. Wow, that is the opening confirmation of this whole message. The sign is not only that they care, the sign is that what they feel has kept living, deepening, and shaping them in secret. So this first section is the recognition. Your intuition has not been wrong, even if it did not have enough outer evidence yet. Their care is not small, and the silence around it is starting to feel too full to hold forever. That is why this found you now, because hidden depth is nearing a turning point, and your heart was meant to know. You may not have seen the whole depth yet, but Spirit is showing you that the depth exists before the proof fully arrives. Sometimes the sign comes first, sometimes the heart knows first, and the world catches up after. This feels like one of those moments. The inner truth has ripened and the outer shift is getting closer now. So if you have been asking whether there is really more here than what has been shown, yes, there is, and it has been stronger for longer than you think. The sign is not vague. The sign is the weight of feeling preparing to become visible. That is the message opening here. What was hidden is alive and it is getting harder to hide. Let us go deeper into the hidden care itself, because this title is not only saying they feel something, it is saying they care more than you know, which means the truth is showing up in small secret ways. Here is growth and longing. Wow. So what they feel did not stay at one level. It kept developing with growth. I feel their feelings matured over time. What may have started as interest turned into something heavier, softer, and much more rooted. With longing, I feel your absence has emotional cost for them. When you are not near, something in their inner world notices the difference. They miss your tone. They miss your responses, your energy, and the very specific atmosphere you bring. This is important because deep care shows itself in daily spaces. It shows up in the ordinary hours, not only in dramatic moments. Let us look at that more closely. Here is the Six of Cups and the Page of Swords. The Six of Cups says they replay sweetness, small memories, little exchanges, your expressions, your warmth, your way, and the Page of Swords tells me the mind stays engaged. Watching, wondering, checking, circling back, returning to you again and again. So the hidden care may look like this. They think of you when something small happens and want to tell you first. They reach for the phone, then stop. They hear a phrase and remember your voice saying it. They go through their day looking normal, but internally your name keeps crossing the room inside them. Let us get more emotional cards here. Here is private devotion and ache. Wow, private devotion says this has become a quiet practice inside them. Not loud, not performed, but repeated, real, and deeply internal. They carry you inwardly. They return to you inwardly. They keep you near in spaces nobody else sees. And Ake says there is cost in that because caring privately does not reduce feeling. It concentrates feeling. The more they keep it in hidden rooms, the more those rooms begin to feel full of you. Let us hear some hidden lines from their side. Here is I think about you when I am not trying to, and here is I miss the small things more than I can explain. Wow, yes, that feels very real and very specific. Because that moves this away from generic romance and into lived emotional attachment, which is much harder to fake. They may miss your timing. They may miss how the air felt after you spoke. They may miss how their own mood shifted around you and how much easier it felt to carry themselves when you were close. Let us also look at what makes their care deeper than you realize. Here is the Queen of Cups and the Moon. The Queen of Cups says their feelings are tender and emotionally rich. The Moon says much of that richness has been hidden by fear, uncertainty, or self-protection. So the reason you may not fully know the depth is not because it is absent. It is because they have been holding it in chambers you cannot fully see yet. For some of you, their feelings get loud at night. For others, they get ambushed by memory in the middle of normal tasks. This is not only fantasy. This is emotional presence continuing in your absence. Let us get more on what they do with this hidden care. Here is the Eight of Pentacles. That tells me they may keep themselves busy. They may try to manage what they feel through work routine or staying mentally occupied, but I do not feel that solves it. It only delays the moment where they admit how much room you take up in them. Let us hear more hidden voice here. Here is I keep trying to focus elsewhere, but I come back to you. And here is I do not think you know how much of me this touches. Wow. Yes, that belongs right here because that is the exact message they care more than you know. And the reason you do not fully know is that so much of it has lived in quiet repetition. This section is the proof, not words, not promises, proof. The proof is how often you come back into them. The proof is how much your absence is felt. The proof is that ordinary life keeps reminding them. The proof is that your energy did not leave when the moment passed. Deep care is not always loud first. Sometimes it is shown by what a person cannot stop revisiting. Sometimes it is shown by who stays with them. Sometimes it is shown by the way they continue to internally turn toward one person over and over again. That is what is happening here. Their heart has built routines around a truth it has not fully spoken yet. And if you have wondered whether they feel you in the small spaces too, yes, the answer is yes in the quiet hours, yes in the normal hours, yes in the unguarded inward ones. That is why this gets deep, because you live in more of their day, more of their memory, and more of their memory and more of their private emotional life than you have been allowed to see yet. The care is not occasional. It is woven through their inner world in a way that keeps proving itself, whether they mean to show it or not deeply. Now, let us go into your side of the story. Because one reason this message matters is that you may not fully see the depth for very understandable reasons. This section is about your protection, your perception, and why the hidden care may not have been easy for you to trust. Here is the Page of Cups reversed, and the Six of Wands, and the Unknown card. Wow, with the Page of Cups reversed, I feel your softness has become protected. You may feel deeply, but you are not eager to expose that without clearer proof. With the Six of Wands, I feel openly being chosen matters to you, not out of ego, but because your heart wants clarity, honoring, and unmistakable intention. And then with the Unknown card, I feel this connection still carries mystery. You may sense its importance, but not fully trust what is unspoken. That makes complete sense. Because when something stays mostly beneath the surface, the nervous system does not always feel safe enough to believe it. Let us clarify this more deeply. And wow, here is the Magician, and the Ten of Cups reversed, and the Three of Pentacles. So yes, I feel your mind has been trying to stay measured. You may be aware of what you show and what you keep protected. The Ten of Cups reversed says you do not want to build on fantasy. The Three of Pentacles says you want effort you can actually stand on. So the reason you may not know how deeply they care is not because you are blind. It is because your heart has learned not to rely on hints alone. Let us go deeper into your emotional structure. Here is discernment and self-respect. Wow, discernment says you have learned to listen to intuition without surrendering your standards. Self-respect says you are no longer willing to call emotional ambiguity proof of love. That is healthy. That is not the problem. That is wisdom earned through experience. For some of you, you may even have minimized what you sensed, not because you felt nothing, but because you refused to build a whole reality out of partial signals. That changes how this whole bond lands on your side. It means your distance may not come from lack of feeling. It may come from emotional discipline. It may come from needing the truth to live in reality before you let your heart fully soften. Let us hear your inner voice. Here is I need more than atmosphere, and here is I need something I can actually trust. Well, yes, that is the center of your side here. This section is not about you doubting from weakness. It is about you protecting yourself from repeating an old hurt pattern. It is telling you that what you sensed was not imagined. It is telling you your caution may have kept you from fully seeing the depth, but it did not make the depth unreal. Let us also look at why this gets deep on your side. Here is the Queen of Cups. In Judgment, the Queen of Cups says your heart is naturally rich, intuitive, and emotionally awake. Judgment says some part of you has already heard the deeper truth trying to rise, so maybe the real issue was never whether you sensed it. Maybe the real issue was whether you allowed yourself to trust what you sense without visible confirmation. And the answer feels like no, not fully. Because you needed evidence, and that is exactly why this sign is arriving now. It is giving your inner knowing a mirror. It is saying what you felt has roots, even if it stayed hidden. Let us get more on what your heart has really wanted. Here is safety, and coherent safety says your body wants love that does not trigger constant alarm. Coherence says your mind wants the outer behavior to match the inner feeling. You were not wrong to hesitate. You were not wrong to wait for something more concrete. Your heart learned caution. Your wisdom learned patience. And without something tangible, you were not going to build your world around felt possibility alone. That was not failure. That was maturity. But now the sign is saying this: you may not have had enough visible evidence before. That does not mean the full depth was not there. It means you were waiting for reality to catch up. And reality is beginning to catch up now. That is why this is finding you at this exact moment. Let us hear one more hidden line from your side. Here is if it is real, let it come closer. And here is I am willing to see it, but I am not willing to invent it. That is your position in one breath. So this section is the honesty of your side. You simply refuse to mistake potential for proof. So the sign is doing something gentle here. It is not asking you to drop your discernment. It is asking you to know that your discernment can make room for truth when the truth finally becomes visible. That is the doorway opening now. And that is why this message matters, because your heart can stay wise and still receive what is real once it steps fully into the open at last. Now let us look at what made this grow so deep. Because this reading is not only saying they care a lot, it is saying the bond itself crossed into another layer. Here is the High Priestess and the Six of Cups. And then the Star. Wow, that is very telling. The High Priestess says this began beneath words. There was recognition before explanation. You may have felt it in the pauses. They may have felt it in the atmosphere. Something in the connection moved below logic. And when that happens, it tends to reach farther inward than ordinary attraction does. The Six of Cups tells me there is emotional familiarity here. Something about you felt naturally known to them, not literally known from the past necessarily, but emotionally familiar in a way that made their heart soften before their mind fully understood why. And then the Star says something else. You awakened hope, not just romance. Hope. Hope that connection could still be beautiful. Hope that love could still feel restorative, clean, and deeply right. When recognition and hope appear together in the same person, the heart usually deepens very quickly. That is what happened here. This bond did not stay at the surface because it reached both memory and future at the same time. Let us get more on the inner deepening. Here's the Five of Wands and the Two of Swords. This tells me the depth was not peaceful at first. It grew through inner conflict. They may have resisted it. They may have argued with themselves, tried to contain it, or tried to call it something smaller, but that usually happens when the feeling matters. Shallow feelings do not create that much internal noise, so the very conflict is part of the proof. The heart does not wrestle this hard over what means nothing. Let us get more on the sign. Here's the Ace of Swords. And the Page of Swords, Ace of Swords says clarity is cutting through fog. Page of Swords says the mind has been fixed here for a while. So if you see this, it is a sign because the truth is moving toward visibility. What was only inward is preparing to become nameable. Let us hear the hidden voice around how this got so deep. Here is, I did not mean for this to matter this much. And here is, but it kept getting bigger every time I tried to minimize it. Wow, yes, that is the deepening. The more they tried to keep it contained, the more alive it became. For some of you, it deepened because distance did not reduce the feeling. Instead, distance revealed how much they actually missed your presence. For others, it deepened because time kept proving that the connection stayed. It did not fade like a passing mood, it lasted. Let us also look at what you specifically awakened in them. Here is the Queen of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles. The Queen of Cups says you awakened emotional truth. You made them feel something tender, real, and inwardly moving. And the Ace of Pentacles says you also awakened the desire for real-life expression. Not only feeling, but form. That combination matters. Because it means this got deep, not only in emotion, but in possibility. You did not only touch their heart, you touched the place in them that imagines what a real future could feel like. That is why the bond went below the usual level. That is why this feels like a sign rather than a random reading title. Let us go one layer deeper. Here is inevitability and ripening. Inevitability says the heart can no longer honestly call this something smaller. Ripening says the depth has matured enough that it now wants to move. So this section is not about action yet, it is about explanation. Why is this so deep? Because the bond touched memory, comfort, hope, desire, and future all at once. Why is this a sign? Because what has been ripening inwardly is close to becoming visible outwardly. And why does Spirit want you to know now? Because when depth reaches a threshold, life usually asks for response. This reading is telling you the threshold is here. The feeling has already crossed from ordinary into meaningful. And once a connection becomes meaningful in this way, it begins to shape behavior, timing, and choices. That is why the atmosphere feels different. The bond has outgrown the old container. The heart has gone too deep to come back up, pretending it stayed shallow. That is the truth of this section. The depth is real, and the sign is here because the depth is beginning to change what happens next between you. That is the key. This is not floating feeling. This is rooted feeling. And rooted feeling always seeks shape. It stays, it deepens. Now let us look at what they are likely to do with all of this, because caring more than you know does not remain inward forever once the pressure crosses a certain point. Here is the Two of Wands and the Knight of Swords and the Ace of Cups. Wow, so planning is crossing into movement. The Two of Wands says they have thought about this. They have imagined the approach, the response, and the possible change between you. The Knight of Swords says the pace can shift suddenly. What forms slowly inwardly may move much faster outwardly once they commit. And the Ace of Cups tells me the action is rooted in real feeling, not performance, not randomness, real heart. So what will they do? I feel they will open the line. For some of you, that means a message. For some, it means a direct conversation. For others, a warmer and more intentional approach than before. Let us get more. Here is the Page of Wands and the Eight of Wands. The Page of Wands says the first step may come in a lighter tone, something easier to answer, something that opens the door without spilling everything in one breath. But the Eight of Wands says do not underestimate it. On say the opening happens, momentum can build quickly, that matters. Because the sign is not only the depth, it is the movement that depth creates. Let us go deeper into the emotional intent beneath what they do. Here is the Two of Cups and the King of Pentacles. The Two of Cups says they want shared connection. The King of Pentacles says they want something grounded enough to hold what they feel. So I do not think this action is only to relieve pressure. I think it is also to create something real. Let us hear the hidden messages attached to the move. Here is I do not want you to keep guessing. And here is I need you to know this is real for me. Wow. Yes, that belongs here exactly. This person is not satisfied with private feeling anymore. They want the feeling to have a place between you. Let us get more. Here is I need to see if the door is still open. And here is I want to stop leaving you in the dark. Wow, that is very strong because it tells me the action is not vague. It is specific in intention. They want reality, not only private weather. Not only inward replay reality. Let us also look at what not to expect. I do not think the first opening says everything all at once. People often open in stages when the feeling matters a lot. So the first move may look smaller than the full love under it, but that does not make it small. It makes it human. The important thing is the direction, and the direction is toward you, toward clarity, toward contact. Let us go one level deeper into the shape of the move. Here is the Fool that says risk, that says new chapter, that says someone is willing to leave the old pattern behind. So what will they do? They will risk contact instead of staying buried in thought. They will risk visibility instead of staying hidden in the inner world. They will risk response instead of clinging to safety through silence. And that is a very big deal. Because it means the feeling has crossed from private truth into lived behavior. This section is the action section. And the action says this: they will step towards you. They will create an opening. They will place something visible where there used to be only tension and intuition. For some of you, the move begins gently. For others, it may feel more direct than you expected. But either way, the point is the same. The hidden care is no longer satisfied staying hidden. That is why this is a sign, because the inward truth is now pushing toward outer contact. So the likely next thing is not more of the same silence. The likely next thing is movement. Not necessarily every answer at once, but enough to change the atmosphere immediately. Enough to let you know that what you sensed was not imagined. Enough to let the bond breathe somewhere outside the private chamber. Let us get one more layer here. Here is the Ace of Pentacles. Wow, that confirms something tangible. A real opening, a real chance, a real step you can actually answer. So this move is not only emotional, it is practical in some way too. It may be a plan, it may be a meeting. It may be a direct offer to reconnect with intention. Whatever the form, it carries more weight than a random check-in. It carries the energy of someone who knows they cannot stay in the old position anymore. And that matters because your title ends with, if you see this, it is a sign. The sign is the pressure turning into behavior. The sign is that the heart is not only feeling now, it is preparing to be seen. That changes everything. Because once the bond receives motion, it stops living only in imagination. It begins to occupy the real world too. And that is where the next chapter starts. This is the action, and the action says, I am getting closer, I am opening this, and I am not content to stay hidden forever. Now let us close this out with the outcome tone, the guidance, and the final confirmation around the sign itself, because the message is not only that they care, but that you are meant to know it now. Here is the Lovers and the Hermit. and the Ace of Swords. Wow, this is very strong. With the Lovers, I feel there is still a living bond here. There is still significance, still emotional reality, and still a meaningful choice resting over this connection. With the Hermit, I feel both of you have gone inward in different ways, thinking, feeling, and trying to understand your own truth before the outer layer caught up. And then the Ace of Swords says, breakthrough truth becoming speakable. Clarity cutting through the haze. So the closing tone does not feel like indefinite mystery. It feels like revelation. Let us get more on that. Here's the Six of Cups and the Page of Swords. The Six of Cups says tenderness is still alive at the core. There is softness, familiarity, and something emotionally precious still moving between you. And the Page of Swords says the mind has remained engaged, watching, wondering, circling back, and staying mentally connected to the bond. All right, so let us see the most likely next energy. Here is the Fool and the Page of Wands and the Two of Cups. Again, this looks like an opening, a fresh move, a bright beginning, and real emotional exchange trying to reappear. The Fool says someone takes the chance. The Page of Wands says the entry point may look simple at first. And the Two of Cups says what begins matters deeply, because the feeling underneath it is mutual enough to create a real shift. For some of you, the first signal may seem ordinary, but it will not feel ordinary in your body, because you will know the tone changed. You will know the energy underneath it is different from what came before. Let us get final hidden messages for them. Here's I need you to know. This is not small to me. For you, here's I need what is real, not what is almost. And for both of you, here is this connection has not ended in my heart. Wow, that gathers everything together beautifully. One heart more visible, one heart still wise, both hearts still linked by something real. So what is the guidance for you? Here is the Queen of Cups and the Ten of Cups. The guidance is to stay emotionally alive without abandoning discernment. You do not need to deny what your intuition has felt, but you also do not need to romanticize what has not yet become consistent. Let yourself receive. Let yourself observe. Let yourself notice whether the behavior matches the depth, because that is the real lesson now. Not whether the feeling exists, but whether the feeling is willing to become honest and lived. Let us get one more message of guidance. Here is there are infinite resources available to me. That tells me do not move from lack. Do not receive this through fear or through the old belief that any affection is better than none. Receive through self-respect. Receive through your standards and your softness together. And now let us hear the final thing they would say if they were standing in front of you. I care more than I have shown. I have tried to keep this smaller than it is, but it did not stay small in me. You have stayed with me in my thoughts, in my feelings, in the quiet spaces where I can no longer pretend. I think I have known for a while that this was deeper than I said, and I think I am getting closer to doing something about that. I do not want to keep leaving you in the dark. I do not want to keep acting as though this is vague when it is not. You matter to me, and the truth is that you have mattered more than I have let you know, and I feel like that is the truth here. Not polished, not dramatic, just deeply true. So yes, this gets deep. Yes, they care more than you know. And yes, if you are seeing this, I do feel it is a sign that hidden depth is nearing visible movement. The sign is not random. The sign is timing. The sign is that the inner pressure has become strong enough to ask for outer expression. And that matters. Something wants to be seen. Something wants to be said. Something wants to be said. Something wants to be said. Something wants to stop living only in private. You do not have to chase it. You do not have to force it, but I do feel you were meant to see this now, because your heart has been sensing the truth and spirit is confirming it. Their care is real, their silence is not emptiness, and the next turn feels closer than before. Let us get one last layer here. Here is Temperance. Wow, Temperance tells me this is not rushing in a chaotic way. This is something ripened enough to begin moving at the right moment. So trust the process without falling asleep inside it. Trust the sign without abandoning your standards, and let what is real show itself, because what is real always asks for form eventually. The truth is asking for air now. It comes closer now. It comes clearer. Because the message is not only that they care, but that you are meant to know it now. Here is the Lovers and the Hermit and the Ace of Swords. Wow, this is very strong. With the Lovers, I feel there is still a living bond here. There is still significance, still emotional reality, and still a meaningful choice resting over this connection. With the Hermit, I feel both of you have gone